Hi, my name is Pat Jarrett. I'm with the Virginia Folk Life Program, and I'm here with Reverend Tarrence Paschall Sr. of the Paschall Brothers and the Chosen Few from Portsmouth, Virginia. Um, the Paschall Brothers were a Tidewater gospel quartet that received the 2012 National Endowment for the Arts National Heritage Fellowship, and they are some of the Reverend Paschall represents some of the last Tidewater quartet singers carrying on the tradition, and we think he's just wonderful. Reverend Paschall, how are you today?
All is well, Brother Pat. We thank God for another opportunity. It's always good to see you. All is well. That's not a cliche. That's that it's good. All is well. Thank God.
All is well. Glad to hear it. And actually, you got the "Music Lives On" shirt. I can't stop looking at it. That's the Paschall Brothers on there, isn't it?
Yes, this shirt is a Father's Day gift that my daughter surprised me with this past Father's Day. Talking about she did not know she was 4 years old, but she found this in the archives somewhere, and it's the last program that we did. As a matter of fact, it was at Ferrum College under the direction of Roddy Moore and Vaughn Webb. That was in October, I think, 1998. And that was we were there. That was my father's last performance with us. It's ironic that she didn't know that, but that's a blessing now. And I thought I'd just wear this shirt to remember in memory of my father.
Oh, that's wonderful. That was the the Blue Ridge Folk Life Festival,
That's
right?
exactly right.
They've
Ferrum
got
College.
they have some really wonderful gospel groups that come through there.
We were Ralph Stanley and the Clinch Mountain Boys. They were phenomenal.
You can say that again. That must have been interesting performing with a bluegrass group, huh?
Oh my goodness, they were excellent, and I mean they're humble guys, let us tour the bus. I mean, man, this was, it was really humbling experience.
Oh,
So much, that we've experienced with the folk life. So we
yeah.
thank you.
Oh, of course, of course. Well, thank you for being here, and we'll get off the topic of t-shirts.
Yes, sir.
Reverend Paschall, your father, he was a prominent preacher in the area, yeah.
Yes, he was.
Tell-
He was the pastor for a pastor for 30 something years. The Mount Moriah RZUA Church and the Union Bethel RZUA Church for years, and he was always, they call him the singing preacher. He would do events and do promote events, and he was always on the circuit, the gospel circuit in the Tidewater area. He was singing until 1981. That's when they met us. He could hold his own, and people, the old adage, boy, y'all can sing, but you ain't nothing like your daddy. You know what I mean? But that's still today. He was somebody's preacher and some kind of singer. He was a philosopher, and he was so many things. But he was a very prominent preacher around. There's not too many people that don't know that name. And all I have to do is not mess it up.
I feel like that when I work with you guys. All just we just got to not mess up the basics, and you guys take care of the rest. You're so
Thank
good.
you, Pat.
Now, your father sang solo before he started the group. Is that right?
Yes, he did.
Oh, tell what was that like?
And he would sing at minister conference solo fests, and he was invited out to sing. Because when he preached, before he preached, he would always sing a song. He'd take his text, sing a song, and preach. I never understood how he could do it. Preach for 10 or 15 minutes effectively, and he'll be done. I don't know how he did it. I can't do it. I'm not as short-winded as he is. I can't sing a song and preach. I just got to use all mine preach. But he was known to sing a song. He had songs that he made up. People just loved. He had a wonderful voice. As a matter of fact, singing with him, I never really did pay any attention singing with him because I was always concentrating on my pitch. But I went to see him perform a solo at a solo fest, And I told my stepmother, I said, my God, Daddy can sing. She said, where have you been? Because I never paid attention, you know. We just concentrated on our own pitch. But he was a phenomenal singer and preacher.
Wow. And you followed your father in those singing footsteps and also in the preaching footsteps, yes?
Well, I would say I'm following in his footsteps. I don't know how much of his shoes I'm filling. I'm honored, you know what I mean? I'm honored just to be in the same name, in the same content as my father. He was a wonderful man.
Wow. Well, I can certainly see. I mean, he made a big impression on you, and the legacy is intact for sure.
Thank you.
So the Paschall Brothers, that you guys started singing, you said in 81?
1981, February 81. I came out of the Army and I came home from I heard you say Washington, but I was stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington, in the Tacoma area, you know, and I got home and they sung it was a song, a album my brother had, The Persuasions. That's an a cappella group as well. The title, The Street Corner Symphony, was a song up there called The Lord's Prayer. And we learned that song in about 10 takes, you know what I mean, in his bedroom. And we took it to our father and he heard it and he got a good ear. He said, that sounds all right. But the next week, which was the first Sunday in March, 81, he took us to a program that he was having at his church, a deacon and trustees anniversary. And we sung a couple of selections, one of his songs in Lord's Prayer, and the rest is history. From that one take, you know, I think it was a divine intervention, I think.
So he just said you sounded good, and then a week later you're performing it, huh?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Wow.
All he said, hold that pitch. If you hold your pitch, you'll be fine.
That's right. And
remember that.
And then from there, you guys, the Paschall Brothers, performed all over the place.
Yes, we've been to churches and arenas and all over the Tidewater area, southeastern Virginia, Hampton, Newport News, Western Virginia. I mean, I'm saying, I don't know. That was before Google Maps. And I don't know how Daddy found some of them places. I mean, little wooden churches, you know what I mean? Storefront churches, little churches in the woods. But like I said, my father always told us, if you're faithful in little, God will reward you with more.
Wow. I didn't realize you guys were playing such small churches.
We turned down a great venue because we had a program at a small venue. And we were like, Daddy, but he said, no, we already promised them, you know what I'm saying, that we would be there. And this congregation was about 10 people, but the other congregation, you know what I mean? But he said, no, a promise is a promise. Maybe they'll rebook us, you know. We can't be in two places. But that's how it is. You got to be faithful, man.
That's it.
But it paid off.
Certainly did. I mean, you played the Kennedy Center, you played the Library of Congress.
Yes.
I mean, the shows the Paschall Brothers. You recorded a Smithsonian Folkways album, right?
Yes, The Right Road Now. You know, we even we went to the Lincoln Center as well, and it was I don't know what kind of festival that John had. It was like a folk festival, but it was Bobby Blue Bland and a whole lot of other great artists there, you know, and that was really humbling. But great experiences, great ones, man.
Certainly, and this is John Lohman.
Yes, Dr. John. Yes,
John Lohman.
I call him John. I call him Doctor. You know, he's a friend of ours, a true friend. You know, his mother and father, just like our mother. I mean, I don't want to get too mushy. You know what I mean? But
we can get a little mushy, but I get it.
Yes.
And you all participated in an early class of the Virginia Folklife Apprenticeship program.
Yes.
Which is this class that's inducting this year is the 20th. Can you believe it? It's been 20 years.
So I think we were the first.
I think so. And tell me about that experience.
Oh man, you know, it was just like John came to the house and said, "It's a program that it's okay. We'll see." But we went there. We took out my son, my nephew, and a few of their friends. We took them up there. We taught them a cappella. They could sing, they're musically inclined. They could sing, and we took them up there as an apprentice group. And that went off well. They were called the Voices of Union. That was the name of our church, Union Chapel AME Church. But they were called the Voices of Union. Our pastor was proud of those guys. And the thing that I loved about it is this. Two of them, my son and my nephew, they ended up really filling positions in the Paschall Brothers. And they brought us something too, because they were musically, they were apt. They were tight. It got even tighter when they joined the group. So, they could tell you that was a C. I said, that wasn't a C. I said, that was a C, Daddy. I'm like, okay. We're sliding or whatever. It was more, it was sensitive. It was tight. You were singing chords and everything then.
Well, and let's talk about that a little bit, because the Tidewater Quartet isn't necessarily 4 members. Do I have that right? Tell me what involves the Tidewater Quartet and what parts are being sung.
The quartet is usually 4-part harmony. And even though it could be a number of guys in the quartet, there are 4 parts that are being played. A lead and 4-part harmony. You know what I'm saying? There's also called a quintet.
And I'm guessing that's 5-part harmony?
That's right.
Okay.
That depends on, we could call it what you want, because it's 8. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If you can get all of them in there, 7 really, because you really, But if you can get them all in there, there's no room for error. But we usually did 4-part harmony with Daddy. The lead background was him. That's how I figure I sing like him, because when he sung, that was my pitch. The lead background vocal for his whatever that my job was easy. Whatever he sung, I follow him. I mirror him in the background, which was easy.
And do you still do that today? Is that what you sing normally, or does it all the guys sing all the parts?
All the parts. We were taught all parts.
Wow.
I was not effective bass. I could sing it, but not as good as somebody. You know what I'm saying? We were taught every part of the song, just in case somebody was, that you got to be ready too.
That's right. And that bass part, that's the boom, boom, boom. That's the real low end.
And sometimes we had a bass pumping and a bass singing.
Tell me the difference between those.
Well, the pumping is just tempo, boom, 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 boom. But the bass is singing a pitch, like road Jordan, road Jordan, road Jordan, and other guy, boom, 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 boom. One guy singing while the other guy is pumping. That's just like the drum,
I understand. Being a bass player, I understand that. Half of what I play is percussion on a lot of these bands, and same with singing. Except you got to do it with your voice, which is just mind-blowing to me.
That's exactly right. That's why I say sometimes it's amazing when we used to sing, my daddy would just to enhance it, he would say moan it or hum it. Oh my God.
Now, what's the difference between singing it and humming it? Like, break that down a little bit. Amazing grace, how sweet. If somebody's saying it, instead of saying blind, but now and you could just paint. We call it painting. Everybody doing their own thing. You don't need to know the words of the song. If you don't know the words of the song, hum your part. It'll sound just as good. It'll beautify, called beautification, especially a good tenor. Good Lord have mercy. Wow, I love it. That's great. I'm terrible with lyrics, so that I could do that.
Yes.
Well, so the performance you did is with the Chosen Few. It's a group of fellows
Yes.
that you sing with. Tell me about how you met them.
I met them about 4 years ago. I was home just relaxing. My wife was out of town, and a friend of mine just called me, named James Bell. They call him General. That's the name that's James Bell, the General. Cohen called him General, but that's his name, James Bell. And he said, Reverend Paschall, what you doing? I said, nothing. He said, I got a couple of tickets to an awards program. They were receiving an award for that particular night. And he said, I got a couple of tickets. Do you want one? I said, yes. Singing, I mean. So I got there, and I just met them, and we talked. And James was telling them about me, my group, and that I was looking for some singers, But I wanted my brothers, but they were not in a position to sing. So this group, when I met them, we got together at Cornelius's mother. He pastors a church at his church, and I asked them if they would do I had a minister solo, but I had to bring my male chorus. Matter of fact, that was 5 years ago, because I had just gotten to this church and I didn't have a male chorus. They didn't have any music. So I asked them to help me at Mount Gilead in Norfolk, Virginia. They have it every year. It's not for the past couple of years because of, the COVID situation, but they're having it they're helping me again this year on the 29th of July. So they sung with me there, and they were received, and they've been invited back on their own since then. But I always try to, like I say, keep them in my pocket. We're good friends, and that's how I met them. And we done some things. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, was it 2 or 3 years ago, at the folk festival?
Yeah,
they were received very well there. And we just last year went to Reston, Reston Folk Festival. They're very a good group of guys to know.
I mean, they're amazing singers, and
they are.
And your performance. I remember that folk festival performance at Richmond, and it was unexpected. I think everybody was pretty blown away because people knew you with the Paschall Brothers, and
yes,
I think there was some, is it going to be as good as the Paschall Brothers? And it's it's different, but certainly it's amazing, and
yes.
Is there a big difference between between singing with family and singing with friends? What are some of the similarities and differences of that?
Well, the similarities are the harmonies, but the differences is what I would call the syncopations. If you know someone, you know what I mean. You know where they're going. Like my daddy taught us, learn the song first, then you can play with it. You know what I mean? Just like a drummer, they call it stay in the pocket. And once you get the basic, then you can roll and play. You know what I mean? But get back. Don't lose your footing out there, because if you lose your footing, he'll tell you don't do that again. Until you learn how to step out without hitting anyone and coming back. And that's how our indies were like, that's just one pitch, and everybody is painting and gliding around it. But that's the only difference. They're not, that's kind of foreign right now to them. But it's simple enough, just because when you don't have music, we don't have gaps. The Paschall Brothers didn't have gaps because we put a sound when we, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to this group, the lead singer is singing by himself a lot.
Understood. So the Chosen Few format, there's always, I noticed there's always a lead singer,
yes,
who's leading the song, and everybody else is kind of supporting that person. But with the Paschall Brothers, you're right. A lot of times it was, everybody singing the same song and filling in, and you're
Yes.
singing as a group. It's less
Yes.
okay. No, that's an interesting difference, and I certainly see the merits of both. Um,
Yes.
and it's both are just amazingly beautiful. I think it's
Because I tell him, I said, there's a gap. It's not a gap. When the harmony comes in, it's tight, but it's easier to go right into it while you're singing it. That's it's for us, uh, but what those guys are doing, they give me leeway to say whatever you need to do, Reverend. Just tell us, and they'll do exactly that. So we're looking forward to doing some great things together.
Yeah. Well, are there any songs? I'm sure most of these are traditionals.
Yes.
And are there some that you sang with the Paschall brothers, and some that you sing that are the same as what you sing with the Chosen Few? And what are
Well,
the differences?
it's one that we sing with the Chosen Few that the Paschall brothers sing, the Old Rugged Cross. We just sing it different, but a pitch is a pitch. They're singing in a bass.
Right.
You know what I mean? They sing it. The lead singer is a bass sort of.
Yeah, James Carter. Yes.
James, yes. And our lead singer is sort of like a second tenor. Sam Cooke. We had Renard Freeman, my wife's brother.
Yeah.
He was like, that's why every now and then the Soul Stirrers, that was one of our favorite groups to copy. What's that word? It's a word for it. I don't know. They use today. It's not our song, but we just use their songs. Because when we were singing, no one. We say if we sung first or last, no one's gonna sing our songs because no one was gonna mess with that time that it took. The reason we learned it because our father, we didn't have a manager. We had a father. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, that cuts both ways, doesn't it?
Yes, Lord.
You can fire a manager.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I'll be like, you got to rehearse this after dinner. Get the dishes and let's, you know what I mean? You got to eat.
You got to eat. You got to live with them.
Exactly right. But it was very profitable. I think everybody needs. See, we didn't have any. It wasn't like what's the word I want to use? What do you call when one person rules? What is that? Not a dictatorship.
I mean, you're not. Yeah, I mean a little bit. I mean,
is it
executive monarchy?
Monarchy.
There it is.
If a monarch is a ruler that's fair. A dictator is unfair. I think you know what I mean? Yeah. A monarch cares about his subjects. You know what I mean? A dictator doesn't.
Yeah. So it's and probably playing in a group with a bunch of guys that you're not related to, it's probably more of a democracy where there are a bunch of voices.
Yeah.
With your father, it's more of a monarchy.
Yeah.
This is what
we're gonna wear the blue tie, the blue suit with the blue tie, and we're gonna meet at 10 o'clock or 5, No questions, no suggestions, just recommendations. No recommendations, just commands. That's what we're gonna do. Yes, sir.
Now, all right. I love the Old Rugged Cross in that performance. I think James did a great job with it. But I'm remembering we have an old performance video of the Paschall brothers performing that.
Yes.
And I can hear Renard's voice. I'm remembering that, and you're right. It's just that it cuts through. It's a beautiful, beautiful tenor.
I can hear that song in my mind, even as you know what I mean? I mean, the pitch, I cling to the old rugged cross, and everybody change it. I miss those guys. You know what I mean? Like I said, that's why I says when you I'm trying to make sense. If you cook a good pie, you got to at least maintain or increase the taste of that pie. That's why my got a brother Renard. We can't find nobody to fill those voices, man. You know what I mean? He said, yeah. Well, I think my son and my nephew and Renard and myself, if we get one man and the Johnny Lewis, but they don't want to sing. That's, you know what I mean? That's, you know.
Well, you and I are going to have to scheme about how to get them to want to sing. We'll figure it out some way, shape, or form.
I think we will. I hope they see this. I hope y'all see this. You know, because I just like I enjoy singing with them, you know, and now I'm enjoying singing with the chosen few. But you know, thank God they're making the grade.
They certainly are. What's the history? When were the chosen few founded? What's the history of that band? What can you tell me about that?
Well, Corn, I have him explain it. He said about 12 years ago, Cornelius? A guy, his brother, and two more guys got together with him, and they just started singing. He said they sung with other groups, but they said they didn't. Same reason why we sung a cappella. The musicians were not dependable. You know, he said they started off bebop, what they call street corner, you know, doo-wop, you know, rhythm and blues, but they started singing gospel, and they added on a few guys, and you know, and it's history, you know. That was about 12 years ago that they started that group.
Wow. It's interesting. It's like you know what questions I'm going to ask, because I was thinking in that area in the Newport News, you know, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton area, the quartet sound was really popular in the mid 20th century. I'm thinking about, you know, Golden Gate Quartet, the Silverleaf Quartet. Those fellas were popular not only with gospel but in pop music. You got that doo-wop sound that kind of comes along with it.
Yes.
Do you know if that was gospel influencing pop music or pop music influencing gospel? Do you know which one came first?
Well, I could say this. Gospel music influenced pop music because gospel was the African American, you know what I mean, church. I mean, the church. And unfortunately, the church wasn't as, how would I say this without being offensive, profitable when it came to singing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it was people found out that they could, because people were singing R&B, not in the church, but as members of church. But the R&B, I don't think people were saying anything because 10% is good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that's what the church, but like I said, no one asked you where you got your 10% from. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And plus, with the name, now it's more common that people are attached to church. Like I say, I've seen gospel, but Mount Nebo Church, you know what I mean? And you can, Aretha Franklin's church was proud of her. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the other members, this called the Haley Singers, JoJo and KC, Jodeci, upbringing church. It's a lot of groups that they'll tell you, even though Kirk Franklin, he's a gospel singer, every now and then you'll hear him on a secular station, Him, Yolanda Adams, and different ones, BB and CC Winans, to name a few. They're serving God. But like I said, singing is singing. You know what I mean? The gift can be used. Your gift will make room for you and cause you to be before great people. What you do with the gifts that those gifts bring about is totally up to you. A lot of people share it with their churches. A lot of churches were built on rock and roll. I hate to say it like that.
Hey.
On rhythm and blues. People don't forget their roots. It's not, I don't think it's being hypocritical. I think it's, I would like to use the term resourceful.
Well, like the Holmes, the Holmes brothers, yeah?
Yes.
Well, that's what Wendell used to say. Well, rock them on Saturday and save them on Sunday. So
that's what I'm saying. But as long if you can rock them on Saturdays and make it to Sunday, that's the thing. You see what I'm saying? That's the gift.
Exactly.
Don't forget, home. Home. That's why the home. That's no pun intended.
Oh, I like it. So did you grow up hearing these street quartets playing, or
yes?
What was that like?
I grew up in a place called Tidewater Park. As a matter of fact, they just honored them. They're going to tear that down. It was a project area in Norfolk, Virginia, right on City Hall Avenue. It's called St. Paul Boulevard, downtown Norfolk. And me and my brothers, we used to sing, together. We were in church singing in the choir and things of that nature. But we used to get on the street corner, and get under the tree with a few, what I would call liquid assistance. And it was right too. You know what I mean? I'm saying, man, hit this. We were singing Temptations. We were singing the Spinners, the Whispers, the Manhattans, anything, the OJs, anything that had harmony. And people would enjoy it, man. I mean, we were the, I'm not proud to say it, but I mean, your gift will make room for, we were at go to the what they call the gong show. That was a thing. The nightclubs would have gong shows where we would perform with $100.
Hey.
We would go in with gospel music.
Outstanding.
You know what I mean? And one time my father always hears about things, and he says, we come to rehearsal that Tuesday. One Sunday night, we won the gong show, got that $100. That Tuesday we were at rehearsal. My father said, how many people in this group? We say 5. Why? He said, because I heard y'all had a program. And I'm like, we didn't have a program. He said, did y'all sing at the club Casablanca? Yes, sir. He said, and did y'all win? Yes, we did. He said, how much you win? We said, $100. He said, now, if it's 5 men in the group, that's $20 a man. He said, I would have came. Y'all didn't tell me. We didn't tell him because we knew we had no business in there. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. You guys were caught.
Somebody told it. We were known. Don't know what we were thinking. Everybody knew us because we were from the area. We were the locals. We had fans that were proud of us. And Frank Boys was at the, So we all had to give him $5 a piece, give him his cut. But he said, at least you won. But man, you talking about some stories, but that's the way we came up. No one, I don't know. We all have a history. You know what I'm saying? But it's not where you came from, it's where you are and where you're heading. So it's a lot of history.
Well, I mean, on that note, where is this heading? Where is the singing style heading? Where are you heading? What's the future? What do you see as the future of this tradition?
Well, like my shirt say, the music still lives. as long as I'm living. You know what I mean? And see, the guys that I'm with, some of them are younger, and there are other people that would like to. I'm trying to get a base like he did with the apprentices, about 4 or 5 guys, and show them like we did before, and tell them, because I can share with them from this platform right here. Hey, it's very, very gratifying. You know what I'm saying? I'm at an interview. I'm on an interview with Virginia Folk Library. Come on,
yeah,
it's worthwhile. You're helping somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
You're helping somebody. Gospel. I think it's gonna continue because I think it's still some a cappella singers out there.
Mm-hmm.
They have not been what I would call discovered. They're out there. It's a group in Norfolk called the Brothers. They asked me to sing with them, but they were good too. But like I said, I don't want to be where I'm not needed. You know what I mean?
I understand. Yeah. Well, and also especially with a gospel group, what you were saying before, you got to stay in your pitch. You don't get what do the guys say in the Chosen Few? Don't step on your pitch.
Don't step on your toes.
Yeah.
You stay in your lane. That's what the young people say. If you could squeeze between somebody, you know what I mean? Boom. But the way we sing, the Chosen Few sings, you can get in between the bass and the baritone. But every now and then that bass will slide up, slide back. But no one would know it because he don't stay there long. Like if you hear somebody singing your pitch, we taught, don't stop singing your pitch.
Man, that's got to take some practice. I know that I'm terrible at singing harmonies, but it's to be isolated in your own lane. Yes. When you got 6 other pitches going on at the same time.
You can hear where you're not supposed to be. Like I say, if I push you, you got to move. You know what I mean? It's called it's a thing they call invert or modulate. When we go up, the second tenor take the first tenor. First tenor go to falsetto. The baritone take second, and the bass. You know what I mean? Everybody just scoot up. Yeah. That's how that goes. But it's harmony. That's how me and my brothers, we knew each other. Like one time somebody scoot up and didn't nobody move with him. My daddy said, wait a minute. We could have done that. Let us know if you're going to move. You know what I mean? So we can all move together. Because he didn't like us trying to stand out. He would say, you trying to stand out. You know what I mean?
That's spoken like a true monarch right there.
Don't stand out. We're together. If you go there and come back, everybody like, that. Because if you know the song, sometimes it fits because you know the song and if everybody at the same time. And it's like, ooh, daddy sometimes look back. But behave back there. That means you cooking. Don't start nothing back there.
I can definitely see the influence your father had in your singing. Yes. And it's his lessons really do stick with you for your whole life, don't they?
Yes, it does. Because he's there. He's physically not, but there's nothing that you're a part of that's not in you. Experiences. Yeah, I can hear his voice. I look in the mirror, I see him. You know what I mean? Because every now and then I say, my daddy used to say, when I'm preaching, my daddy used to say, experiences give you more to say and do. I could never miss my father because he's right here. And I think if we look at that, I'm an extension of him. It's a strange thing. I don't want to get too You know,
we won't get too far into it, but I can definitely see the influence in the path you took, and I never heard him sing in person,
you know,
but I think that I've heard some of it because I've heard the Paschall Brothers, and I hear
yes,
you singing, and if I've heard that, that means that's a connection. That's beautiful.
that's it.
Wow.
You know,
Wow. I'm going through this list of questions here, and I've covered we've covered quite a lot. Is there something that you would like to talk about that we haven't talked about yet?
well, I would like to talk about the response to a cappella music. You know, and it's the distinct form of art because we've been in venues where there have been other artists that use music. And hear me, these are some phenomenal musicians. But when you sing a cappella, those musicians are like awestruck. And to this day, they still saying, guys that are now 35 and 40 years old, remember us when they were children. That's an impact.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And they compliment you as if you're still singing. You know, that's what I'm saying. Something good is lasting. You know what I mean? Until you mess it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people will remember if you've done something that's noteworthy, it's noteworthy. You know what I'm saying? People remember you by what you did if you're not doing anything right now.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I remember, you know, but that right there, you can use that as a cop out or be encouraged to go on. That's what I choose to do. You know what I mean? The food I ate last week, as good as it was, it's gone.
Right.
And I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to keep eating and I want to continue. Like I say, that's why I say the music still lives because I still live. As long since the time you were born, you were sustained by food and drink.
Mm-hmm.
Even up until now, every day you had to eat something and drink something every day. And even though I'm 62, the music that sustained it sustains me. You know what I mean? It I don't say drive me, but I don't think I wish, because I can't pray, but because it's not something I want. You know what I mean? Everybody's not like me, but I wish that everybody had the same drive that I had when it comes to singing a cappella.
Yeah.
See, and I think the chosen few have that drive, but because they rehearse. If you rehearse, you in there. You if you're a musician, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You got to practice.
The more you rehearse, practice makes perfect. It doesn't mean perfection. It means maturity.
So let me ask you a nuts and bolts question because you brought it up. How many days a week are you guys rehearsing together to get that sound so tight?
Well, they rehearse Mondays and Fridays.
2 days a week. And
2 days a week.
Well, then do they sing on Sunday? Are they gospel?
Yes.
That's a lot of practice. That's fantastic. I can see why you guys are so tight.
And sometimes they sing on Saturdays and Sundays.
Wow.
Sometimes they sing on Fridays, Saturdays, and
Sundays. It's a lifelong pursuit, isn't it?
Yes. But you got to want to do it. Because the truth of the matter is, if you got to be forced to do something, this is art of choice, not force. Like the guys were just excited as I was. You saw them. They were saying Reverend Paschall, but no, every floor has a ceiling. If that makes sense.
Every floor has a ceiling. Yeah, I can see that.
One man's floor is another man's ceiling.
All right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we all got something to aspire to. You know what I mean? No matter where you are, you ain't high as you can be.
Well, and one last thing, we got just a couple minutes left.
Okay.
But there's one more thing, because you brought up instrumentation and a cappella singing, and it's certainly I spoke to a close friend of mine, and we talked about, I said something about gospel music, and they said, oh yeah, gospel bands are great. And I said, well, this one, I mean, there's no drums, no bass, no guitar. You think about a gospel group, and you think about the organ, you think about the drums, and you think about that driving bass line. I think about the driving bass line. And for gospel singers, I mean, for singers, doing completely a cappella without the instrumentation, that to me almost seems like walking on a tightrope without a net. There's no safety net. You got to have the pitch, you got to have the harmonies, and it's a human voice that's responsible for all that. And I don't know do you think that the human voice, there's something to that's different than playing with instruments?
An unsure musician don't play loud.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like my son, he was practicing with earphones.
Mm-hmm.
But then he said, Daddy, I need an amp. When you're sure, you know what I mean? It's just like once you hear that, oh, that's your pitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you rehearse, your confidence is in everything. You know what I mean? Them basketball players, football players, your job, there's a degree of confidence that's required. Even though we're rolling, and now there is a degree of what's the word I want to use? Inherent nervousness,
apprehension.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we do, and when you're used to doing something, it's not so much that you messed up. It's so much so that you messed up and you're so good that people didn't even notice. A group will say, we weren't good today. You know what I mean? Because they were there.
Yeah.
You know what you can do. You know what I mean? Like I tell people all the time, my father used to say, don't try to fly a plane when you know you can't. Encouraging, when people encourage you, you know what I mean? That shows you, if you know you weren't worth those accolades, I'm just, I could do better. The guy, they call me bishop. I'm not a bishop, but that's something to aspire to. You know what I'm saying? So I will behave myself accordingly. You know what I mean? Humility is the way up. We've learned this, Pat. People, boastful people disappoint. Humble people impress. Because Gomer Powell, Jim Neighbors, I don't know if you're not expecting that from him.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? But my father said, if you blow your trumpet loud, make sure it's right.
That is the perfect way to describe y'all singing. You practice it, you get it right, and then you get in front of people and you blow your trumpet and you impress. So y'all must be humble.
A man with a Volkswagen won't impress a man with a Mercedes. You can't show off your Volkswagen to a man that has a Bentley. Best you can do is keep on going till you get a Bentley. And then people will start paying attention to your Bentley. You ain't, stay low.
Stay low. Stay humble.
Stay humble.
That's it.
I mean, you don't say you're humble, be humble.
That's it. That's
the best way to be. Because when you're humble, people aren't expecting much from you. And that's how you impress people.
I got to say, you guys must be some of the most humble people in the world, because I'm very impressed. And you all sing beautifully. And it's always an honor to hear you in person. And I missed you during the pandemic. I missed seeing live music. And I'm glad we were able to connect over the pandemic.
Hopefully we'll connect soon. And the guys told me to tell you, please tell Pat and Katie, thank you.
Pleasure is all ours, Reverend Paschall. Thank you so much.
I got that in, yes.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And also thank you for sharing your thoughts and stories today. I feel like this was a great conversation. And, I'll have to come to church down there in Portsmouth sometime and see you.
Come on down.
All right.
Come on down.
Mount Nebo, right? Mount Nebo.
Mount Nebo. RZUA Church, 2515 High Street, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23707. That's how we tell.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Reverend Paschall, is there anything else before we sign off today?
Well, no, there's nothing other than thank you. I love you, and thank you for the opportunity that you've provided for this interview. And we thank God for all that are involved, the Library of Congress, Virginia Folklife, you, Katie, and whoever else that's behind the scenes, because no tree stands without roots that's unseen.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you very much, and thank you to the American Folklife Center, and I think that's it for now. So have a good day, Reverend Paschall.
Have a wonderful day, and thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.